transformed through him to bring us wisdom, encouragement, direction. We thank you for the gift of his preaching ministry through his sermons on conducting business with integrity and excellence. You've opened our eyes to new ways of serving in our daily work. His words have challenged us to be better stewards, to do business with more love, to be more intentional about reflecting their characters in our personal lives. Lord, we're grateful for how Matt consistently shines his light and yours in our community. His example of faithful service reminds us what it means to live as your people. Through his leadership, many have been encouraged, strengthened, and inspired to draw closer to you. Bless Matt, Father, for his dedication and his faithfulness. Strengthen him as he continues to serve. Grant him wisdom for the decisions ahead, energy for the work you called him to do, and joy in knowing how you used him to impact lives. May his work continue to bear fruit that lasts. May we each take to heart the lessons you taught us through his faithful service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Lord,
Jeanette.
you're welcome.
Appreciate that. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Jeanette, thank you for helping just in general. As many of you know, about a year ago, I started Airlie Oak Insurance Group, which is our hometown insurance agency. I'm still running Ham House Sports with my son Matthew, and we're doing faith in business. And so I have felt the demand of lack of margin and lack of time in my life. And so I'm grateful for Jeanette, for John, for Jenny, and for Matt Coleman, who have stepped in to really help me stay on top of it with faith in business. Otherwise, we might show up and, there's no coffee, there's no biscuits, and, I fall asleep up here. So I'm super grateful that they have helped kind of take charge. And honestly, this is what faith in business is about for me. It's about you guys. It's about your businesses. It's about your calling. It's about how you live out what your convictions are out in the world. And I just like to be the champion for that. And so before we dive deeper, I wanted to share a really cool story, because a lot of times I can be honest, we get lost in the mundane of the things that we do, and we wonder, why the heck am I still doing this? Which is a great question to ask, because a lot of times expecting a different outcome with the same input is a version of insanity. And so for me, I had something that happened last month at Raleigh Faith in Business that was radical as far as helping me see the impact faith in business is having. And so I wanted to share this with you. This gentleman right here is Jock Gilbert. Jock is the mayor of Apex. And what's interesting is I did not know Jock, never had met Jock, but Lee Holmes, who is kind of the Raleigh counterpart of Jeanette, she runs Raleigh Faith in Business, keeps it organized. I think he went to school with Jock. That crew up there, they know Jock real well, and he invited Jock to Faith in Business. So Jock started coming. And I've never really had any interaction with him other than, a handshake or a high five. I knew who he was. I knew that he was the mayor. But last month, if y'all remember, the topic of faith in business was about how do we integrate love into our businesses. We use 1 Corinthians 13 not to talk about a wedding, which is not the context of that passage, to talk about how it applies to our daily lives and our work. Well, after that message, Jacques was kind of sitting over here about where Michael was, and he stood up and he just looked at me and he goes, "I needed that today." And I was like, "Thanks, bro." He leaves. And then I'm talking to people after, in that kind of frenzy. I get a text message that night from Lee Holmes. It's a copy text message from Jock Gilbert. And it says, "Lee, I wanted to thank you for inviting me to Faith in Business. I'm grateful for Matt's messages, how they continue to challenge me. His message today was radically impactful on a decision I had to make for the city of Apex. Keep doing good work." And he copied a letter that he had written to the city of Apex. Unbeknownst to me, that same day of this message of faith in business about love, Jacques was the deciding vote in an eminent domain case for the city of Apex. And he said, after hearing what we talked about love, even though we had legal right, I could not vote for the city to take this family's property. And he said, I wanted to tell you that in Apex we value our people or whatever. And I'm reading this, it's kind of late at night or whatever, and the Lord spoke to my spirit, and he said, when you continue to operate in obedience, it changes the governance of cities. I can tell you, my bingo card for 25 had nothing on it about changing governmental decisions. My goal setting that I did in January or last November had nothing on it about changing the governance of cities, which is problematic for two reasons. Number one, it shows me I'm not thinking like God. And number two, it shows me that my goals, my dreams, my bingo card is too small. And so I wanted to share this with you guys. And it's so hard because there's such this thing in me where I'd rather not share because I don't want to have any ounce of like trying to take credit for what God is doing. But you have to see that God is at work, even when it seems like he's not, even when things out there are crazy, even when you're getting run over by the truck, God is like, just stay the course, because if you stay faithful, I'm going to change government. And so, this month's message is here's the other thing. A lot of times, like, yeah, I'm going to go change government. And let's get strategy on how we can change government. And you go do that. That ain't what I'm talking about either. I'm talking about being faithful to what God's called you faithful to, and then letting him turn government. So just to give you guys a testimony of what's happening. You go, well, what does Faith in Business do? We change the governance of cities. What? Yeah, that's what we do. That's not on our mission statement. It's not on our cards that we hand out. But I want y'all to know that there's more going on here than just getting together to hear some guy give a message and eat a biscuit and shake a hand. You know, nothing against B&I, and I'll tell you, this is not a B&I group. This is not a networking thing. Maybe it's on Eventbrite as a networking thing, and yes, networking happens here. But like, this is what we're wanting to do, is influence people for the kingdom of God that changes the landscape of cities. But do it in a way that you can't take credit for it. Right? So just so you guys know, that really hit me this past month, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So, which kingdom? I've got a group of guys on Monday night. We meet and just dive into the Word. And after much back and forth, we landed on the book of Daniel. And I've been in Daniel a while. I know the book of Daniel. I've read it before. But rereading Daniel 1 kind of tied everything together with what's happening in Faith in Business, what's going on in my life, and kind of the status of things and where we are in the world today. So we're going to use Daniel 1 today as kind of our teaching point, and we're going to navigate through that. I've got some highlight points, and then from there, we'll try to wrap it up. I'm going to read off the screen because I'm having cataract surgery in August. I've officially arrived at whatever state of life that is, and I'm not okay with it, but I cannot see, so I've got it on the board here. So much love to all of those who are in my same shoes, and if you're not, keep your mouth closed. All right, Daniel 1. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave, say that with me, gave Jehoiakim of Judah into his hand. Lord only gives good gifts. Yeah, it is good. Anyway, you think it's good. He gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with some of the vessels of the house of God. And he brought them to the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and placed the vessels in the treasury of his God. Then the king commanded Ashpenaz, the chief eunuch, to bring some endowed with knowledge, understanding, learning, and competent to stand in the king's palace, and to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. What's going on here? The Lord gave his people into the hands of a foreign king and a foreign kingdom. The Lord gave his people over to another form of governance. And that governance decided, let's do the best we can with natural selection. Let's get the best looking, the smartest, the strongest, and let's indoctrinate them into our literature and our language. Pretty strong recruiting pitch, if you don't. So they're getting the cream of the crop out of Jerusalem, bringing them into Babylon to build their empire. Right? And so the king assigned them a daily, it's funny, I just had an idea of, I wonder if he put an Indeed ad out. Looking for the brightest and best and smartest and skillful in all wisdom, Israelites to come into the king's palace. Oh, that sounds good. Do they have benefits? Let's go get a job. Right? But that's how that kingdom thinks. That's how that kingdom works. The king assigned them a daily portion of the food that the king ate and of the wine that he drank. They would be educated for 3 years. Kind of sounds like our universities. And at the end of that time, they were to stand before the king. Among these were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah of the tribe of Judah. And the chief of the eunuchs gave them names. Daniel he called Belteshazzar. Hananiah he called Shadrach. Mishael he called Meshach. And Azariah he called Abednego. So, they recruit the best and the baddest. They indoctrinate them for 3 years. And they give them a new name. But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food, or with the wine that he drank. Therefore, he asked the chief of the eunuchs to allow him not to defile himself. And God, say it with me, gave Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king who assigned you your food and your drink, for why should he see that you were in worse condition than the youths who are of your own age? So you would endanger my head with the king. The eunuch's basically going, hey bro, you got to eat this food, you got to drink this drink, because if you don't, you're going to look like a withered whatever, and I'm going to get my head taken off because you didn't follow protocol. C-Y-A. You know what that stands for? All right, good. The chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, okay, then Daniel said to the steward, whom the chief of the eunuchs had assigned over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, test your servants for 10 days. Let us be given vegetables to eat and water to drink. Sounds miserable. Then let our appearance and the appearance of the youths who eat the king's food be observed by you, and deal with your servants according to what you see. So Daniel goes, hey, here's the deal. Let me just eat vegetables and water and test it for 10 days, and let's see where we land. Right? So he listened to them in the matter and tested it for 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, it was seen that they were better in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate the king's food. I say, hallelujah, the king fatter in flesh. Let's go. So the steward took away their food and wine that they were drinking, gave them vegetables. As for these 4 youths, God gave them learning and skill in all literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in visions and dreams. And at the end of the time, when the king had commanded they should be brought, the chief of the eunuchs brought them before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king spoke with them, and among all of them, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. I love this passage. I love the context of the book of Daniel. Right? And there's so many little points that jump out here. And again, I promise you, I'm not trying to be snarky or cynical when maybe a little bit, but I want to draw forth the the radical similarities of what these fellas were up against and to what you and I walk in every day out there. So here's a few takeaways. Land of the free, home of the brave, baby. America, American dream, right? This is the thing, and I love our country, and I love the faithfulness to our country, but I'm telling you, it's Babylon. The business world is Babylon. And it says God gave them into Babylon, right? And so the interesting piece here is I think a lot of Christian-minded folks would agree, yeah, they're either going, I don't really think so. I mean, it's all good. And yet, they're not awake to it. But those that are, they would go, well, that's all bad then. And so I'm going to isolate myself from the world. And I'm going to create this little bubble where I don't do business with people who don't look and think like me. I don't do business with people that my ideologies do not align. And it creates a self-righteousness in Christian people that they are better than Babylon. Is that what Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did? Nope. You know, the thing that I have had to realize in getting back into this day-to-day business, life with Airlie Oak and our insurance group is it is a different set of standards. It is a different set of rules. It is a different set of metrics. And we can go into that and try to change it, or we can just recognize it for what it is. And so the tension that I have been feeling lately is which kingdom is driving my value system? Which kingdom is driving my significance? Which kingdom am I actually serving every day? Because if we wake up and we're focused on productivity, efficiency, all these types of things, and we're not focused on faithfulness, obedience, all these other things, what we find is we become like all of the other Israelite youths who are not mentioned by name because they just went with the flow. And so we have to see the call on our lives to be the Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to stand up and have this mindset where we are in the world, not of it. And again, we serve one king, but can we serve the king while honoring the kingdom that we're in? Because Daniel didn't go, yeah, your food's stupid. You know what I'm saying? He goes, you're an idiot, you know what I mean, for doing this, or whatever, screw you. Like, that was not the mindset that they took into it. They also did not comply. So it's really interesting when you start to see that, the business world as Babylon. Now, here's the interesting thing, too. What is the first thing that they did when they got them in there? They gave them new names. Right? Now, what's funny is I tell people this all the time. Guess what everybody in this room has? And we all have one. It's a 9-digit number. Uh-huh. Guess what? You got a name. And that name is a number. And that number says, how much did you produce for me this year? Yeah, I need a little bit of that. I need a little bit of that. Right? Y'all, we're in Babylon. And we got new names. The question is are those names what define us? Right? And so understand that the world, that Babylon is going to constantly give you an identity that is driven by compliance, productivity, probably some other things. thing is, if you read the book of Isaiah, the Lord speaks to his people and says, I have called you by name. So many people navigate through their daily lives and don't understand their identity apart from the world. Our worldly identities are always rooted in what we can do for somebody else. And that's why people define themselves by their careers, you know what I mean? I'm a sales guy, I'm a plumber, I'm a, professor, whatever. And that's fine to have a title, but that's not your identity. And what happens so frequently is that our identity gets immediately attached to our titles, and we become these things. This is why people who leave a career that they've been invested in, or leave any kind of group, organization, whatever, and there's this bad, nasty, it's because their identities have been tied into this role that they have played. You see, Daniel operated under the name Belshazzar, but he didn't forget who he was. You can call me whatever you want to call me, but I'm not going to let go of my true identity. Here's the other thing. When you're in Babylon, what do they want you to consume? The king's food. The king's food is symbolic for everything that the world has to offer. And it's eat this meat, drink this. And I'll be honest, y'all, I struggle because, and again, it ain't about real meat, but you know what I'm saying. Meat's good, and there's some wine, I like that brown wine, if y'all know what I'm talking about. That's my kind of wine. I like that bourbon, all that stuff. I like it. It's okay. It's good. The problem is that your entire sustenance? Do you build your days around this food that you're consuming of the worldly provision? And now I relate this story back to the story of King David when he was fighting Goliath. If you remember the story, David runs, he sees Goliath taunting the things. Do y'all remember what King Saul tried to do before Daniel went to fight Goliath? Who said it?
Well, he gave his armor.
Yes. King Saul said, here, if you're going to fight, use my armor. David was a 15-year-old kid. He put on the armor and it was all clunky. He couldn't get, so what did he do? He threw off the king's armor and picked up what? His sling. And he ran at the giant and he killed it. So again, in your businesses, in your life, whose armor are you using? There's these best business practices, best business strategies. And it's not that they're bad. But if that's what you're relying on, you're wearing the king's armor and you're eating the king's food. And this is a real tension. And I'm going to give you guys a little side story. This weekend, my son was playing travel basketball here, but they played out in Rocky Point at Heidi Trask High School. And get to the gym, waiting, games are delayed, I had to go to the restroom. I went down this back hallway to this restroom, and I'm coming back out, and I hear somebody kind of like speaking angrily at me from behind me, and I didn't catch it at first, and I turned around, and it was this coach for this high school, and his first words to me were, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Oh, no, I was just going to the bathroom." "Why are you here?" "I was going to the bathroom, man." "This is off limits." I was like, "Oh, okay, man, I was just going to the..." "You need to follow instructions." And I said, "You don't need to be so rude." I said, "I was going to the bathroom. I'm going back to the gym." And he looked, he's like, "You need to apologize." And at this point in time, I turned my back, Now, I can promise you, I wanted to pick up the king's weaponry at that moment and drop something on this fellow because he was about yay big and had a personality the size of this room. And I'm thinking about this thing. I'm like, I'm about to pick up, something. And I'm sitting here and everything in me is going, all right, this ain't the battle I fight. Now, I couldn't get away without having a little bit of, a word in. So I said, there's not a sign on that door. If you'll come and show it to me, I'll apologize. Right? And then he said, shut up and go back to the gym. And at that point in time, I just turned around and walked like this, and I was like, I ain't getting into it with this guy. My point is, we all have moments in every single day when we're dealing with somebody who is operating in the kingdom that is not ours. And so how we react, how we respond, how we navigate those moments says everything about the king we honor. And so just be aware that this applies to business, co-workers, marriage, relationship, kids. This applies to just navigating life with crazy people. And I'll be honest, as I get older, I'm like, I don't want to be around nobody. I'm fine. Just be by myself. And that ain't it either. The Lord is not about isolation. The Lord is not about isolation. Isolation is what wolves do to sheep when they're trying to eat them. So you can't isolate. You got to get in, be in the world that you're in. Now this is an interesting one. As I was going through this story, I thought about the eunuch. Okay? So the eunuch was given charge over the king's affairs. The eunuch represents leadership. The eunuch represents people who are enforcing the rules of Babylon. Right? And again, Daniel was understanding that the eunuch's head was on the line if he didn't comply. So Daniel was not here to get the eunuch in trouble. And I think a lot of times in our Christian mindset, we're kind of going, well, that's your problem, man. You signed up for that. You're the one that's happened to cowtail to da-da-da-da-da-da. That's not it. You have to have empathy to understand that this person that may be a coworker of yours, that may be in leadership, that they might not be a part of the kingdom yet, but they don't understand it. They're just following protocol. They're just, their mindset is limited. They haven't been exposed yet, whatever. And so how you treat them, how you navigate that, says everything about what's going to come. I was thinking about this. I'm so glad the Lord brought this back to my memory. This whole lesson sparked from a conversation I had with my buddy Aaron. And I told him, when Daniel was in Babylon, it was a Persian, kingdom. Do you know who was in Babylon at the time of Daniel? The Magi. Y'all know who the Magi are? The wise men? The Christmas story, right? What were they? They were Persian astrologers. Okay? Now fast forward the story. Who recognized the star? The Magi. Persian astrologers, Persian wise men recognized the kingdom when they saw it. How did they hear about the kingdom? Daniel. When Daniel was exiled in Babylon, he talked of his God. He honored his God. They spoke of the prophecies of a king, a true king, coming, Bethlehem, right? All the different things. Because Daniel honored his God in Babylon, seeds were sown. Sorry, I sound like Ric Flair. Seeds were sown into the soil of the Magi's heart, so that when the star popped popped up 400 years later, they knew. They go, oh, this is what they were talking about. So here's my point in that little side note. The way that you and I honor God in our businesses is a seed that is sown so some future generation might recognize the kingdom and go, that's what he was talking about. It's not your job to convert your coworker. It's your job to honor your God and sow seeds. And then what's going to happen is God goes, yeah. And in some future moment, that coworker goes, oh my God, this is what he was talking about. But if you don't live like Daniel, if I don't live like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the world, our co-workers, Babylon, they will never understand the kingdom. Y'all with me? This is like, it fires me up so much, but it's so hard. The reward of obedience is that future generations would understand the true king. That's the payoff. I go back to what happened with Jock. The reward of obedience. There's a family that is still in their home today because of the hand of God moving through multiple people. And that is the kind of God we serve. That's the kind of kingdom we're a part of. But it is offensive and it transcends anything that Babylon can hold on to. And I love the book of Daniel because the book of Daniel is about offending the crap out of Babylon. I'm talking about massive offense to the point where the king is running around in the woods with no clothes on, howling at the moon. If you read the book of Daniel through this lens, I promise you it changes. We go, God, I don't want to go to the lion's den. God, I don't want to go to the furnace. I just want a paycheck. So, everybody always tells me that, Matt, I love when you say all this stuff. What do I do with it? What do I do? Like, how do I get some action? Let me create an action step for you. Okay. I don't know what that looks like, but this is my attempt to say, here's how we try to bring this down to earth. Okay? I hope this is helpful. So how do we practically navigate the tension of the kingdoms? Number one, you have to understand your mission. Okay? When I go into my office, my primary mission is not to scale and grow my business. My primary mission is to honor my Lord. My primary mission is to point to the convictions of my faith. And that is a mindset that has to be reset every day and multiple times a day. Last night, I left the office at 7:45. I was in the office at 7:45 catching up on quotes. We had a bunch of quotes to get out, right? And I can promise you, when 5:30 came and I did the first one, there was a big part of me that wanted to go, I'll get to it. And I had to reset my mind. Because I said, what am I here for? I am here to serve the people that God has put in front of me. And if this person reached out to us today, I need to honor that. And I need to be faithful with what's right in front of me. And so I made the decision to stay and to honor that relationship and that client at that moment, right? Small example. There was conversations that happened yesterday when I was getting asked questions, and I wanted to come off with this kind of thing. And I said, this is not my metric system. This is not my thing. So how do I hit reset in the middle? Practically, you have a pause button. Some of you go, It's really small. Let's just be honest. But you got one. Learn to hit pause. Pausing is just going, all right, take a second. And you might be in a conversation, say, if you could just give me 1 second. Right? Take a second. Train yourself to do that and it happens faster. And maybe you have some kind of mantra that you like that reminds you of your world, kingdom identity. I'm a daughter of the King. I'm a son of God. You know what I mean? I'm here to be about love and kindness or whatever. You know what I mean? Think about that kind of daily reminder. Hit reset. And the second thing, the power of today. I would say that Babylon is obsessed with yesterday and tomorrow. Y'all with me on that? You understand what I mean by that? Babylon, the world, business, America, it's all about what did we do yesterday, what happened back here, the way it used to be, and where are we going? What's next? And so Babylon obsesses about the past and the future. Yesterday and tomorrow. And everything is built around goal setting and where we go and all. And now listen, vision is good. Direction is good. Learning from the past is good. It's not wrong. You can't be obsessed with it. Out of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, which one is most important? Today. Always today. You know what Jesus had to say about today? What did he say? Today has enough for you to worry about. What did he say about tomorrow? Don't worry about it. What did he say about the past? Remember what he told Peter? Get behind me, Satan. If it's behind you, you can't see it. There's a kingdom element to daily life that turns its back on the past, lives in the moment, trusting God for the future. I know a lot of people who are stuck, well, you don't know what I came through, I was brought up this way, I didn't have anything, this way, or I got through this divorce, or my ex, or da-da-da-da-da-da. I get it, y'all. I get it. And man, the past sucks for a lot of people. And then other people, boy, the past is good, man. I used to be, hey, you know, I was so good. You know, whatever. The past is this thing we constantly praise. But today sucks. You know what I mean? Like, there's just mindsets that pervade culture. And then it's all these people about, oh, yeah, when I get this, next year we're going to have this, we're going to get this. This is all these future people. I don't see a lot of people who are just okay with today. And this is where the Lord has been hitting me up, because I'm that guy who is always polarizing between the two, right? And the Lord has kept speaking to me about the power today. Be in each moment that you're in. And again, my wife and I have this conversation, and it never, ever, ever seems to change. But like this thing, like, gosh knows, it is such a challenge to draw you out of right in front of you. And I'm so guilty of it. I was at PT's the other day having lunch, and I looked at a table, and there was a kid on an iPad and a mom on a phone. And my dad's here, and I love my dad. My dad had to have a procedure in the hospital this past week. I'm so glad that he's out. But I had this thought when I went to see him in the hospital. I was like, man, like, to think that you waste time at a family meal being
device. You know what I mean? Like, God's challenging. And I get it, y'all. I get it. Like, kids, shut up. Just here, have this. Leave me alone. I want to eat my burger. I get it. I get it. But I'm constantly reminded of the challenge about the kingdom that I'm part of, the convictions of my faith, and what kind of seeds that I want to sow into my life. So the power of today. That's probably a book title somewhere, I guarantee you. And then the third is embrace community. Daniel had who? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? I think a lot of times we fall into this trap of thinking, there's nobody else that thinks like me. There's nobody in my office that honors God. There's nobody else who has the same values I have. People don't get it, whatever. We convince ourselves that we don't have community. And y'all, that's one reason why this exists. This exists to create an atmosphere for community to thrive. But I'm not going to hold your hand. Hey, you need to pick out one person to go to lunch with next week. Have you talked to somebody else in the room? Have you gotten to know who is in your similar industry? It's like Jeanette said. Like, don't hesitate to talk about your business. How can you learn to collaborate? Not in a, what can I get from you? But in a, hey, you know, what can I give, right? What kind of community exists here? And that's one of the things that I want to create with Faith in Business. Like, I want people out there flooding into these doors because we have something to offer that Babylon doesn't. That we've got resources that Babylon doesn't have. The problem is Babylon just has the resources. They've got the things that people think they need, and so people just kind of float out there until whatever point brings them to rock bottom. But embrace community. You can't walk alone. So I would say, who speaks into your life? Who have you given authority to speak into your life? Do you have a mentor? What is that person's value system? You know, if your mentor is driving you to save up for a Ferrari or whatever, you might want to find a new one. Get a Ferrari, that's fine. The point is like, what's the metric system? Yeah, but you have to also meet people where they are too. So again, I would say, learn to hit pause. You have a pause button, learn to hit, and then also daily activity that is relegated to your convictions of faith. Whether that's a morning walk, whether it's a quiet time, whether it's a journal entry, you have to have daily activities that are a part of your conviction. Right? Then being each moment is about the presence, understanding today. It has very closely tied to this hitting pause. The person that's in front of you, the shoes that are in your feet. You know what I mean? Pause. Be thankful for the moment. Don't let your mind go to yesterday. Don't let your mind float to tomorrow. Think through your day. Plan your day to some degree. Understand where things align. That's okay. Right? And then embrace community. I don't know who it is, but have people in your life that will speak into it. Have people in your life that will help you uphold the convictions that you have. And I'd love to see what happened in this. I love to see what happened in this story, because Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were given the opportunity to concede their conviction for their circumstance. You either choose your conviction or you choose your circumstance. And that's what faith is about. So, that's all I got. Anybody have any thoughts, questions, commentary? Johnny?
You know the one thing I don't like about Daniel? Is that you've got the three other men that stood firm in the name that their God gave them, and yet when